What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Bulls Latest. Your host, Matt Johnson, here as we kick off yet another week here, September 8th. We're inching closer to the NBA preseason kicking off, just 3 weeks away now. Super excited for that to get going here. I wanted to start today's show with Josh Giddey and just talk a little bit about what it could take to get a deal done and end this stalemate between the Bulls' restricted free agent here. A compromise at $26 million could be a resolution to get things moving and to finally get things shifted towards focusing on this upcoming season. Giddey is only at this point, only one of the four marquee restricted free agent dominoes has fallen thus far. I talked to you guys on Friday. That's Brooklyn Nets guard Cam Thomas. He signed his one-year, $6 million deal in his qualifying offer, ultimately betting on himself instead of accepting one of Brooklyn's reported short-term offers. As a result, the prevailing thought is that Josh Giddey could take that same path here, which signing his $11.1 million qualifying offer instead of settling for an unwelcome contract could be something that him and his camp are kind of shifting their focus towards. However, Giddey signing the qualifying offer isn't necessarily in the best interest of each party. If you look at things from a bigger perspective, I think Giddey wants to earn more. I think he thinks he's done enough to earn more. And in the Bulls' eyes, they want to keep him around for the foreseeable future, but at the right price here. When you look at the 22-year-old guard, he's made it clear he wants to stay in Chicago. He does love it here. He expressed his desire for a long-term deal to get done with the Bulls. Even so, Chicago has kind of balked at Giddey's request for roughly $30 million per season, and this is something I've been following for months now with this show, how the Bulls have kind of been mindful of the leverage they hold in restricted free agency after, signing Pat Williams to that crazy $90 million contract a year prior. So we'll see how things go here. Most recently, it's been reported that Chicago upped its offer, which I talked about a few days ago, up to something north of $88 million. That's an $8 million increase from the Bulls' reported 4-year, $80 million deal to kick off the offseason. So they're inching up about $8 million a year. Some quick math points by, looking at this, it points to $26 million at the midway point between $22 and $30 million. So you kind of meet in the middle ground there. $26 million could be something that gets Giddey's attention and his camp and finally gets things done. It's totally fair in terms of my eyes, that compromise for both parties. I know Giddey doesn't receive the $30 million he's been really pushing for, but a 4-year, $104 million contract isn't too shabby, especially when you take into the fact that at just 22 years old, he's set to enter free agency again after that deal at 26 years of age, which is still in the core of his prime there. So I just think, if Giddey is looking to get something done in his camp, I think $104 million contract, $26 million a year would be a very solid option here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think the Bulls will end up getting him that money, or do you think Giddey is really set on playing at $30 million? What would your thoughts be on him signing that $11 million qualifying offer moving forward? I'd be interested to hear Bulls fans' thoughts on that. Switching gears to Nikola Vucevic here. Vucevic has officially retired from international play. He, the Bulls center spent the summer representing his home country in Montenegro in the EuroBasket tournament. He had a great showing, averaging around 21 points and 11 rebounds per game, but his nation was unable to advance out of the group stage. This is where he ultimately hung up the sneakers there on international play there, moving on from that part of his career. Could this be a sign of his upcoming NBA future, too? One can only wonder if he is thinking about hanging up, his NBA career in the near future, and what those thoughts in his head are looking like right now in terms of what his future is like. He has expressed a big interest on wanting to play winning basketball, and he is kind of uncertain if he's able to do that in Chicago. So if the Bulls are unable to move him coming up here by the February trade deadline, who knows what his thoughts are, if he wants to continue to play just to play. I know he wants to win championships, so that's something to consider if you're the Chicago Bulls, kind of looking at that, and him hanging up his international competition career with Montenegro. So just some quick notes there. I wanted to throw at you guys today a 3-team mock trade. Now, this was first reported by Sports Illustrated. I thought it was an interesting one. While the Bulls may not be actively shopping this guy, Ayo Dosunmu is the name that I think would be floated out there in this trade. He hasn't really been shopped this offseason. They could still potentially part ways with him if the right deal came their way. I think he is a player who's kind of on fringe when it comes to the Bulls' future plans. He's showed a lot of promise, but with the injury this past season, and the Bulls just loaded at that position with a lot of different names, I think if you get a tempting enough return, you would look at dealing him if you're the Bulls. This mock trade would send Ayo Dosunmu to the Denver Nuggets here, and it's a 3-team deal. In this deal, the Denver Nuggets would receive Justin Champagnie, Ayo Dosunmu, to go along with him there. And then the Bulls would receive a player, Zeke Naji and Peyton Watson, along with the 2026 second-round pick. And then to go along there to kind of sweeten things up, a 2028 first-round swap there via Denver. And Washington would receive a 2032 second-round pick via Denver there. When you look at this deal, I know it's nothing crazy, and people are going to be like, why would you flip Ayo for that? But the key piece in this trade is Peyton Watson. At 22 years old, he's undoubtedly the most intriguing player in this deal. He's a promising defender, but the Bulls would need to be ready to grant him a contract extension, bringing him in, on that short-term deal. So the Bulls would have to look at a future for this guy as well if they want to make it worth it and shifting Ayo Dosunmu out of town. Still, he's shown plenty of glimpses that he would make it make it work in Chicago with the system that they have going and make it work with the money. So he would need to kind of accept that fate for his career moving forward. I know Denver's kind of a powerhouse in the Western Conference, so it would be interesting to see him kind of flip gears here if he wanted to take that deal. So, when you look at Naji, the other piece of this trade, I don't have too much on that guy. Zeke Naji, I think at 24 years old, he's a big man who also has shown glimpses of being a productive front court presence, but has never really turned into what the Nuggets were hoping for. So, I think that's more of a sweetener. I think Peyton Watson, once again, is going to be the piece that you're going to want to look at if you're Chicago. He would have room for mistakes in Naji and kind of grow in Chicago. I think that's a different perspective than you have in Denver, a team that is so set on winning now in a loaded Western Conference. So for Naji, I think, for Zeke Naji, I think it's something where you look at an opportunity to get better with an organization that really puts its emphasis on developing players. Overall, though, of course, Dosunmu is a valuable player. We all know that. It's going to be hard for the Bulls to want to move him at this point in the offseason. But this is a trade that I think works. I think it gives the Bulls some capital in terms of future assets. They all love doing that, kind of stacking draft picks there. But we'll see what happens with Ayo's future. I think that's the other name to watch as we move into the start of this upcoming season, obviously along with Nikola Vucevic there. So kind of wrapping up today's show, obviously EuroBasket is in the center of the basketball world right now. I wanted to go over with you guys some of the results over this past weekend moving into the quarterfinals this week. Luka Doncic put up 42 points and 10 rebounds to lead Slovenia over Italy to move into the quarterfinals in a match against the World Cup winner in Germany. So that'll certainly be a heck of a matchup there. Georgia also advanced to the quarterfinals for the first time with a dominant 80-70 win over France. So exciting for that Georgia team there. Poland beat Bosnia and Herzegovina 80-72 to set up a quarterfinal match versus Turkey. And then finally, Greece beat Israel 84-79. Giannis had a monster game there, setting up a quarterfinal matchup against three-time champion Lithuania. So the quarterfinals has some awesome matchups coming up here. Certainly excited to watch that high-level basketball take place. The quarterfinals will be held tomorrow and Wednesday, with the final being this upcoming Sunday. So that tournament is winding down. The competition's heating up. These players are playing hard. Luka looks really good out there. I think he's going to be a force with the Lakers this upcoming season. Looks like he's gotten himself in better shape. So it's fun to watch these star players compete for their nations there in this tournament. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that moving through this week. Anyway, though, I mean, we got the preseason fastly approaching. I keep saying it, but real basketball is on the horizon here. I can't wait to talk Bulls ball with you guys moving forward. As always, I want to thank you guys for joining me today in another episode of Bulls Latest. Let me know any thoughts or comments you have. Share them in the comments. It'd be great to hear from you guys and what Bulls Nation thinks about some of these topics. Hit that like and subscribe button. Goes a long way for the channel. Thanks again for joining me, guys, and we will see you guys tomorrow.